today's webinar, we are going to be talking about Wisconsin NIBRS. We're going to go through the certification process, what it takes to get your department certified with Wisconsin NIBRS so that you can report that, and then jump into a little bit of the setup, go into the case data entry, then the NIBRS data entry, and then finally how to get your actual file for submission every month. All right, so for the actual certification process, there's nothing really to show you on the screen right here, so I'll go ahead and tell you. For certification, you reach out to us and we get you set up, started with a project. And for certification, you have to submit, I believe for Wisconsin, it's 3 months of data. So that means you have to match what you're reporting in the UCR summary with what you report to NIBRS for 3 months. And that can be 3 months in the future, or it can be 3 months in the past. So for, if we started the project today, then we would probably say, go ahead and start filling out March, April, and May. So you would be able to fill out, and you probably already submitted UCR data or summary data for March and April, and then you just have to kind of match that with NIBRS. You have to fill out the month for March, April, May, submit those 3. Then the state checks them, make sure that they come out. If there are any errors, they'll send it back, and then we can help to resolve those errors and send them back in. And then they'll certify those 3 months, and then you're NIBRS certified. You don't have to submit any UCR summary data after that. It'll only be NIBRS from here on out. For that process, there's a little bit of setup that you have to do on your side, and we help with all of this. Everything we're about to talk about, we help during the project plan, and we do some training with you, and we also are going to have a video like this where you can actually see how to put in certain cases. And for today's training, we are going to kind of go through 3 different cases: simple assault, which also has a vandalism, and then a larceny theft, and then a drug narcotics, and drug equipment charge. So we're going to be going through those and also going through some setup just to show you guys how you can go through the system and how easy it is. So for the first thing, setup down here, we'll come here. And the 3 that we want to look at are probably the biggest ones, the ones that take the most amount of time to set up. And the first one is going to be crime and incident codes. So if we go here, we'll choose a crime in this list. So let's do this aggravated assault. And there's only 2 fields that you really need to worry about for NIBRS. So you can use your codes that are already set up in the system. And then you come here for the Ucr Offence Code. And that is just going to be a code that the FBI came up with for submitting to NIBRS. We have a list of that on our support site. We'll email you that as well whenever your project starts. And what that is saying, for an aggravated assault, you need to put this code. So 13A, 13A is going to be an aggravated assault. And they all kind of go together. So a simple assault, this code will be a 13B. And then it's just a different 3-digit code for all of those. And then the other thing you need to look at is down below that, these 3 checkboxes: crime against person, crime against property, and crime against society. So you need to set those up for the specific crime code. This is an aggravated assault, so that would be a crime against person. Again, we have a list that shows for an aggravated assault, you'd put the UCR offense of 13A, and you would check the box for crime against person. And we go through that with all of the different crime codes that NIBRS wants you to report. So all you have to do is go through, add those 2 fields, and then save. And you would have to do that for any reportable crimes that you have in your code list. So that's why this is one of the ones that takes a little while. But it's only 2 fields, so it doesn't take that long. All right, and then another big one is going to be here in the Geo File. So that's going to be setting up your locations for submitting to NIBRS. We'll look at Parkwood Hall right here. And then over here, the only thing you have to do for your location, so you've already got all your locations set up, you just need to choose an address type here for that location. This one would be school, college, or university, but you can see from this list, and we this is already in ARMS. We actually import this from the FBI to be a list that you would choose from to match with whatever your location is. All right, we'll save that and go back to setup. And then the last big one is going to be code list. And then we will choose the category of property and evidence and the subcategory of property type. Now there's more codes for setup. There's about 4 other things you'd have to set up, but each of those only take like a minute. So I'll tell you what they are once we get to them in the actual case review, but I do want to show you these 3 big ones. All right, so for the property type, your department may already have property in here with different names. So like clothes and furs, you might also have sweaters or a hat or something like that. But what you can do is choose the one that doesn't necessarily match what NIBRS has. I've actually already got mine matching what NIBRS has, code 6 and clothes and furs. But if yours said code SW and then the description was sweaters, then you could come in this list and just map it to clothes and furs. That way your officers can still put in what they're used to putting in, but whenever it goes into the NIBRS review, it maps to the right NIBRS code. And these are all codes come up with from the FBI or from the state, depending, that NIBRS requires you to have. All right. And for the setup, those are the 3 big ones. The other ones, like I said, take very little time to set up, and we help with that as well. But these are the ones that do take a little bit of time. All right, so we'll go back to the main screen here, and we'll actually go ahead and jump into the big part of this, the case data entry and the NIBRS review entry. So we've got our cases up here. You can get there by going to case and then just searching for a case in here. You can also just search for your case number if you already know what that is. But we'll jump over to case, and this will be our first one that we go through. This is going to be the simple assault and vandalism. Now I'm going to jump through this one, just going through each of the different fields and explaining what they mean. And then for the other 2, we're going to go a little bit faster through them to show you just how quick you can put in that data. All right, so for the face page, this right here, this case is where the officer will enter the information on the case. And then afterwards, whoever does your NIBRS reporting will go into the NIBRS review, and that'll pull from what the officer's already added. And I want to show you what fields you can put in as the officer that'll pull in for whoever's putting in that reporting information. So on the face page, we've got the location right here. Remember Parkwood Hall, we set that up as a 52, which is school, college, university. So that'll pull in. Then we'll come down to incidents right here. And you've got a simple assault and a vandalism right here. These are both set up already on the back end. Simple assault is a 13B. If you remember, we had that aggravated assault as a 13A. So this one is a 13B for simple assault. And then a destroyed public property, that's going to be a 290 code. No way for you guys to know that, but that would pull from the list that we can give you. All right, and then we'll go down to our names. We've got 2 names in here, Mary Markison, who is the victim, and then Marcus Marison, who is the arrestee or offender. And these involvement types right here, those are some setup on the back end where when your officer puts in this involvement type, it'll map to either victim or offender. So right here, we've got our victim, and then arrested person would import as offender. And that's all done from the setup on the back end. And you can also see all of the information for this person will import into the NIBRS review, which you'll see in just a second. So the age, race, sex, and ethnicity will all pull in. One other thing that'll pull in right here for the arrested person, this arrest will also pull into the NIBRS review too. All right, so let's go down and we'll go down to property. Remember, this is a vandalism, so we do have a damaged piece of property here. I'll click edit to look at this one. And you've got your property category as damaged, which translates to the damaged NIBRS type property loss down here, where you can have your own codes up here, but have them mapped to the right ones for NIBRS down here. All right, and then we already looked at the property type where we have bicycles, and that maps down to here for the NIBRS description. And then the last thing to enter will be the value right here. We'll save that. And now we'll actually jump into that NIBRS review. We've already entered everything in here that you can. And actually, let me jump right back real quick. I do want to show you this part. For the victim, you can also come down here and mark the victim. These fields down at the bottom are all NIBRS related fields. So you'll see when we get to this one, for the type of injury, we are going to have to put a type of injury, and we can mark that here. You can also choose what code this victim is related to. So if we want to say that they're connected to both of those, then we can do that right here on the face page as an officer. I'm going to hit no on both of those because I want to show you what it looks like if an officer doesn't put that in, and you can just add it through the NIBRS review. All right, we'll come to NIBRS right here, and we'll jump into our NIBRS review. All right, so this is the administrative segment. You can see it's split up into these segments right here, and they've each got a separate name and information that you can add to them. All right, so we've got our incident number, incident date and time, and the reported date, if those are different. And then the unfounded or yes or no. So if it is unfounded, you would just hit yes. And if it's not, then no. That one's pretty easy. And then right here for cleared exceptionally, you would choose the code that matches what this case has. And if it does need a code in here, then you would change that exceptional clearance over here. You would put in a date for that. All right, and then the big one on this is going to be the cargo theft. That is only going to apply to certain codes in here. So remember, we had the simple assault is a 13B, and the vandalism is a 290. Depending on those codes is what this cargo theft is going to look for. Right now, this one's going to be NA, but say I forget that and I put this as no. Whenever I hit save, ARMS is going to let you know, nope, a cargo theft must be NA if it's not one of these codes. And remember, it was a 13B and a 290, and none of those are in that list. So we'll hit NA, save, and we're good to go. So we'll go down to this next tab for offense, and we've got our vandalism and our simple assault right here. So let's click on that simple assault. So right here, you got that 13B that we talked about. We've got the location type right here that pulls in from the actual case. Oh, and I got rid of my 13B right here. Let me add that back in. And then the bias motivation, that's going to default to 88. You can see there's tons of different types of bias motivations, but for the most part, we've seen it always be no bias, so you just need to add that in if you need to. And then down below that, you've got the offense was completed or attempted. That is going to depend on the actual case. So if it's a theft, then it needs to be completed if something was actually stolen, or attempted if it was not stolen. And that's going to depend on the property that you can add over here. So completed, you can add stolen and recovered property. If it was just attempted, you'd have to put none or unknown. All right. And then below that, you've got the offender suspected of using. Those are just check boxes. So if any of those apply, then you can check them. And then over here, these are a little bit trickier. Method of entry, you only put that in if you have a burglary over here. And you would put in an N or an F for forcible and non-forcible. And then number of premises entered, that one's really strange, where you have to have a burglary over here for the offense code. But this only applies if the location type is a hotel or storage units. So if either of those location types are up here, you would need to put in the number of storage units or hotel rooms that the person broke into. All right, below that, you've got the weapon or force involved types. That's going to default to none for any that apply. And this is always going to be required if it's a crime against person up here. And there's certain ones that do require it, and we have a list of those if you ever do need those. But then right here, you can come to weapon or force involved. And most people would say if this is like someone punching another person or something like that, they would say, no, there's no weapons. But what they do want you to put is right here, a code 40 for personal weapon, hands, feet, and teeth. All right, and then down at the bottom, these are more checkboxes that may or may not apply to the one up here. These also can only be used on certain types of UCR offense codes, and we check that and also provide that. And then right here, we've got the gang information where you can check the box whether a gang was related. All right, we'll hit save. And we can check the vandalism as well, but actually for this one, there's nothing that we need to do. So this is one of the easy ones where you can just check it and then hit save and close. All right, the next tab is going to be property. So remember, we had that vandalized property. We'll click on that. And right here, it pulls in that information for you. So you've already got the destroyed code, you've got the bicycle code, and you've got the value. And with this one, we're done. So we can hit save and close, and we're all done with this page. If you ever don't have this information and need to import it in again, or update something on the actual case and want to import that in, you can click this import button. Or if it's not in here and you just want to add it to the NIBRS review, you can always just hit the add button to add a brand new one. Then you can also see we've got validate all and validate segment. Validate segment will validate only the segment you're looking at. All right, so we are good on this one. So we'll go to victim right here, and we'll click on that. As you can see, it imports all of the information that we had on the victim. And this is where we could have mapped it on the actual case, but instead we can come in and just add it to the NIBRS review. And then you can probably remember me saying that we're going to have to add a type of injury. But what if we forget that? What if I say, all right, I've got my codes on there, done with this one, save and close. ARMS, again, will let you know that you need to have a type of injury for any of these codes. And one of those codes is a 13B, which is that simple assault. So we need to add a type of injury. So we'll choose apparent minor injury. Then you've got aggravated assault and homicide circumstances. You only need to put those in if it's an aggravated assault or a homicide. And then LEOCA information, you can see those are grayed out. You can only put that in if this type of victim up here is a law enforcement officer. Now I can click on those. All right, let me put that back as individual, and I'll go ahead and hit save. All right, going down to the next tab, we've got offender, and this one's actually pretty easy as well. It's got nothing we need to change. It all pulls from the information that the officer put on the case. So we're good to go for that one. All right, and this next one is the victim-offender relationships. So if you have a victim that's an individual, you always have to put a victim-offender relationship. So we'll come here, we'll hit add, and we'll choose from the list. We'll say this was just an acquaintance. And we'll hit save and close. All right, and we'll come down to arrestee right here. This pulls that arrest that was already on the case. And you've got all this information in here that already pulls in, and we can save it. This one's actually done too, but I do want to show you a couple of these. For type of arrest, you want to make sure to put in which one it was, summoned, cited, based on a warrant, or without a warrant. And then this one's really tricky, the multi-arrest segment indicator. That would be for like if there were 2 or 3 burglaries and they were all the same person or they were all kind of related. If that one person got arrested for those 3 burglaries, then in here, you would put count arrestee on the first one that you report and then multiple on the other 2. That's just showing them that this is one arrest that relates to all the other ones. All right. And we'll come down to the bottom. We've got suspect was arrested, was armed with, and then you would just choose the weapon that they were armed with if they were. All right, save and close. Then the last thing I always say to do at the very end of their, at the end of your NIBRS review, come up and click validate all. That checks all of these segments to make sure there's no errors on there. So now this one has been validated and you can submit it for the state to check out. All right, now let's go over to these other 2 and do them a little bit faster. So this one is the larceny theft. We've got our location. We've got our larceny theft. We've got our victim in here. And you can see this one's actually already connected to the offense code. Then for our property, we've got our stolen in here. looks the exact same as damaged, except the category is different. So we've got stolen, property type, and that maps to stolen down here, the description, and the value right here. We'll save that, and we'll go ahead and start our NIBRS review. All right, so in here, we've got our number and all that, but this one's important. This cargo theft, we do have to put something in because this is a theft. So if we hit save, it's going to say cargo theft must be no or yes if the offense code is in here. I'll go ahead and let you know a spoiler. 23H is a larceny theft that we're using right now. So we will have to do that. And we're good. So this wasn't a cargo theft, but we do have to put actually no on there. So go to an offense, check this one out. And just like vandalism, there's nothing that we have to put on this one. The only thing to really check would be offense was completed or attempted, but this was completed. So we'll hit save. Now we'll go to our actual property. And here we've got stolen and clothes and furs and valued property being 200, sorry. Then we'll go to save and exit. And so what if this was stolen, but then it was also recovered? NIBRS requires you to have two separate ones. So we would come up to add, choose the property loss type as recovered, and then add a property description that matches the other one. So we've got clothes and furs. Let's say we didn't recover everything. We'll just put 150 there. And then the date recovered, we'll put as today. All right, and save and close. So this segment is all good now. And we'll go to our victim. And now if we check our victim, you'll see since we've got this mapped already to the correct crime, there's nothing else that we have to add to this one. So we'll save and close. And we're all done with this tab. Now the offender right here is a little tricky. Say this was an unknown suspect. We don't know who stole the clothes, but we do have to put an offender on this case. So you would come up to the top and click on Add Completely Unknown Offender. We'll add that, and you can see it automatically puts in all of them as blank. And that's all you have to do for that one. So we'll go down to Victim-Offender Relationship, and we'll click Add up at the top. And you've got your victim right here, and then your completely unknown offender. And if you do have more than one victim, it would just be where you'd have to make more than one victim-offender relationships, but they would each have the offenders underneath it. And you can also, it would be a drop-down list where you could choose the other one. Now, this is a completely unknown offender, and you do still have to put in a relationship there, but it's automatically just going to be marked as NA. So you have to save that, and now there's a relationship there just saying that it's NA. It's weird, but you do have to put that. And then no arrestee, because this is a completely unknown offender. So the last thing we'll do is hit validate all. No errors found on that one, so we'll jump over to the next one. This one is the crime, the drug, narcotics, and drug equipment. So we've got our location, our two different violations, our arrested person and his arrest, and then the properties right here. Let me jump into one of these. Equipment is going to be pretty similar to the others, where you've got the category, type, and then that maps to category of seized and the type right here. But one important thing, the value for drug, narcotic equipment always just needs to be 1. That's going to be the state's way of saying 1 means unknown. So if you don't know, or if you ever don't know the value, then you can put 1, and that would show them that it's an unknown value. Some other weird ones, if you do have identity documents like an ID or a fake ID, or a credit card, if like someone stole money from someone's credit card, those both need to be 0 for the value. For a credit card, if someone stole money from your credit card, you would put $0 for the credit card itself, because that card technically has no value. And then you would do another one for money, another stolen property for money with the value that was stolen. All right. and then we'll go to drug narcotics up here. Click edit, and we've got our evidence, drug narcotics, and now that we chose these two, property category and property types, it actually added in new fields for the department to put in that only apply to drug narcotics evidence. So down here, you've got the property loss type and the description, just like the other one, but you've also got the NIBRS drug measurement type and the weight, and the NIBRS suspected drug type. So you'd fill that out and then hit save. All right, we'll come down to the NIBRS review and start this one. Nothing to do on the administrative page, so we're good to go there. We can check out one of these, and actually everything's good to go on this page. It even checks the box for possessing and concealing for you based off of this code right there, that 35B, which I lost again. Let me add that back. Save and close. Drug narcotics violation looks the same way with that checkbox. And we'll go down to property. So this is going to show all of that seized property that we just pulled in. We've got seized, the equipment marked as 1, the drug narcotics, which we'll need to change to blank. You actually can't have 0 there for the value. It has to be blank. And then the drug type, drug quantity, and measurement. All right, we'll save that, so we're good to go on that one. And now this victim is a little bit different. So last time we had an unknown offender, but here there's no victim technically on a drug charge. But you do have to add in, if we come up to add up at the top, crime against society. So we'll click add and then choose society as the victim and map society to those two. If you remember, whenever we were setting up our crime codes at the beginning, that list that we have will show you which ones are crime against person, property, and crime against society. So these two codes are, yes, crimes against society. All right, there's nothing else to add to this page, so we'll hit save and close. And we'll go down to our offender. The offender pulled in with all that information, nothing else we have to do on this page. And victim-offender relationship, if you remember from last time, you have to add a victim-offender relationship only if your victim is an individual. This is a victim of society, so you can't even click that add button. It's grayed out because you can't add a victim-offender relationship with society. All right, and then below that, you've got your arrestee in here. Everything looks good to go for that one, so we'll save and close. All right, and we are done filling out all those reviews. The last thing I want to do is hit validate all. So this one is all good to go. So now that we've done all 3 of those reviews and finished the month, we'll say, we're going to say that those 3 were the ones that we needed to do for our first month of certification, or you know, submitting an actual month of NIBRS. So we're done with those. Our next step is to come back to just the home screen right here. We're going to go into case management, and you can click on that and it'll show you right here your NIBRS data extract. You can also come over to case and just find your data extract there from the sidebar. So we'll click on that. And you can see I did some testing in here. What I want to show you is what happens if one of these isn't filled out correctly. If we come up here, let's take off this victim-offender relationship for our simple assault. So if I take that off, click validate all, you can see it gives me an error message that I need to do that. Let me try exporting this month. So we'll hit extract. And you can see it gives me a validation error. If I click on that, let me bring this over real quick. It says each NIBRS victim that is connected with crime against person or property needs to have the victim-offender relationship. If you come over here, it shows you the case number that has an error. So that's going to be this case number right here that we were looking at. So let me close out of that. We'll come over to NIBRS review. So this is our case number. Let's add that back in. Validate all. And now we should be able to extract it. So we'll hit extract. All right, and now it says success. 3 reviews were extracted, and we've got our extract file that pops up down here at the bottom. For the actual extract file, this won't really make sense to everybody. It's just a bunch of codes and stuff like that that we set up. From everything that we did in the setup side, that is what fills out this page for you. It makes it a lot easier than just typing all of this out. But you can see right here, it goes based off of the actual case number. So right here, this 20-003, that's the one that we had a simple assault. And that applies to all of these in the list that have that. Continues to go down for the next one and the last one. But you don't have to worry about any of that. All you have to do is take this file and submit it for certification. If you're doing it for certification, if you've already been certified, then you already know where to go to submit this file. All right, so that is all that we wanted to cover, just going through the certification process, then the code setup, and then going through some examples of cases that we see a lot, and then finally the actual submission file that you would submit to the state. So let me bring up our PowerPoint and go to the next tab here. And we're going to go into the Q&A session. So for this Q&A session, what you can do, again, what we talked about a little bit before we started this call, you've got your screen that I'm sharing. If you move your mouse around that, you should see participants down at the bottom. If you click on that, it'll open up this sidebar over here and give you a raise hand button at the bottom. Once you raise your hand, then we will unmute you so you can ask your question, and then we will mute you back once we've answered your question, and we'll move on to the next question. Let's go back to that Q&A. All right, so now it is your turn. If you guys have any questions for us, go ahead and raise your hand, or you can type it into the chat down at that same bottom bar at the bottom. All right, any questions from you guys? All right, looks like there are no questions for this. If you do have any questions that pop up later on, then you can always reach out to us by emailing us at support@arms.com or calling us at 1-800-776-6783. And then also just going off of what Dan just sent in the chat, we do have we are going to be posting this video onto arms.com/webinars, and you'll get an email about that probably tomorrow. I think we've been doing them every Friday or posting them every Friday, so you'll get a video then. And yeah, if you guys have any questions, just let us know. Otherwise, I'll go ahead and let you guys go. And I hope everybody has a good day, and I hope everybody stays safe. All right, thanks, guys.